Oh, hey everyone, welcome to tomorrow. Jared and I are dancing. Ryan is like, what are these fools doing? my, name, my name is Jamie Higginbotham. I am joined by Jared Head and Ryan Caton, and we will be talking about all of the fun things that the moon likes to eat. For example, this is, I wish we had a breaking news thing. Dun, 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 breaking news. Luna 25, Russia for the first time in like 50 years. Oh, yeah, by the way, I should mention this one is traveling and is having bandwidth problems. And so this will be a fun and interesting show where he may just randomly disappear in the middle of his own segments. So, welcome to tomorrow, I guess.
Yes.
So, Luna 25. Luna 25,
Luna...
it's like, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I was about to say the exact same thing that you were, which is that was the latest mission from Russia to attempt to land on the moon.
In like 50 years, right? Because Luna 24
Mm-hmm.
was in 19, I have a note here somewhere. It's like 1970 something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
1976 was the last time Russia tried to land on the moon. And it didn't go so well. So on August 19th, which is yesterday, Roscosmos declared an abnormal situation with the vehicle. They tried to issue a command for an engine burn to move it into like a pre-landing orbit, and it's Roscosmos, so they're not giving us whole lots of information, but it sounds like that command didn't go. A emergency situation occurred, which I assume means the command didn't go. Right? You issued the command. It didn't initiate the burn. That's your emergency situation. I'm making assumptions. I don't know that to be true. And then they were like trying to get the vehicle back, see if they can, because, just because you have a problem doesn't mean that you've lost the mission, right?
Yep.
Having said that, if you're already on your way to an orbital body and you're already kind of on a collision course with it, there is a timer set. So on August 20th, which is today, at least in the time zone we're in, they issued another statement saying that corrective measures on both August 19th and today have proven to be unsuccessful, and they've effectively lost the vehicle. Did they command it upside down? No, but that would be Lisa if she were commanding the vehicle. She may have sent the binary in Australia goes 1-0 and in America goes 0-1. For those who don't know.
I was actually looking online from someone like Jonathan McDowell, who's the astronomer for essentially the Smithsonian, through their work that they do there. And it sounds like what happened is that the burn went as planned at the correct time. It's just that they ended up taking the periapsis, or the low point of the orbit, into negative height, which means that it was, in the low point of its orbit, was underground on the moon. And there's some other folks like Katyan Gray on Twitter, who's a very well-respected Russian aerospace. I don't want to call him a reporter, but very, very much covers Russian aerospace reporter. It says that there's some rumors flying around from well understood people within Roscosmos that the impulse on the engines actually turned out to be 150% higher than was a part of their design. So there's a lot of very interesting things that appear to have happened that we're going to need some really definitive answers for.
So what you're saying is it's exactly the opposite of what I just said it could be, where it didn't command an engine fire, where it did command an engine fire, and boy, did those engines fire.
Yeah, so
they did a super good job.
So Jonathan McDowell is saying that Roscosmos is saying that they did end up firing the engines. For whatever reason, it generated that negative, I guess, paraloon with it there. So that, I would say, yes, it definitely did do that. As for the other ones, not entirely fully substantiated yet in terms of the engines overperforming what they do, which is not something we typically talk about in aerospace. with rockets and things. But the person saying that is somebody who's a source that I trust a lot in terms of Russian aerospace news. So would
But
not
in all
be
fairness,
surprised.
it is all still hearsay, right? Like we don't have an official account yet, right? Because I was going through what I thought were all the official accounts, and I didn't actually see an official like, oh hey, yeah, we overburned.
Yeah, so overburning, yeah, in terms of overburning, yes, that would be a unofficial account at the moment. But I would say anything that comes out of Jonathan McDowell's mouth is pretty much like that is bedrock in terms of spaceflight news. I don't think I've ever seen him wrong in my 15 years of doing stuff like this. So
Fair enough. But just for clarity, the official stuff from Roscosmos is emergency situation occurred. It didn't allow the maneuver to be performed with the specific parameters. They're analyzing, and then the next statement was a signal disruption came at 11:57 coordinated time, and that corrective measures on both 19th and 20th proved unsuccessful. I think officially that's all that's happened, but we're basically saying, yeah, official, like we kind of know what's happened at this point.
I think it's interesting too because the 11:57, I assume that's coordinated universal time.
Yeah, I converted it to UTC. That's correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. So the burn was supposed to start at 11:10 UTC. So that tells me that the 11:57 isn't just, I think, loss of signal. That sounds like this is the time it did its litho braking on the moon.
Mr. Huggy has a really good point, which is, they're dropping from 100 kilometers to 18 kilometers, but they went effectively 50% too much. So that puts you into the moon.
Yeah, it tends to do that.
So we assume that there's a new crater on the moon at this point?
Yeah, probably. So
yeah.
A nice 20 to 30 meter sized crater.
Do you think it's anywhere near Vax's crater?
Don't know. I don't know what time they started the burn, and I don't know where that would have ended up at. But maybe. But at least we know that the moon has a little extra today, but accidentally, not like Vax, who did it intentionally.
Mr. Huggy actually brought up a really good point, which is on August 23rd. Chandrayaan-3 mission is also aiming for soft landing on the moon, and that'll be at 12:04 coordinated time. And that is the ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. And so, Russia may not have made it, but we're trying again. And it's interesting to me that there are so many entities we seem to be, as a species, really interested in the moon again, right? Like, we were super interested during the Cold War. We sent humans to the moon in the Cold War. And then, we kind of were like, cool, we did that, and we stopped. And it didn't feel like we did too much else beyond that. I mean, we certainly did do some stuff, but now here we are, days apart, with multiple lunar landers, effectively. And and you got NASA looking to do the Gateway and, Artemis and sending humans back to the moon. It's kind of a really interesting time right now in aerospace with regards to just going out and exploring again. It's actually kind of exciting. And I would say that, yeah, it sucks that Roscosmos, I guess would it be regolith braking?
Litho braked.
Luna brake?
Luna litho braked.
But there really isn't Earth on the moon, right? It's regolith. So let me know in the comments what you think that would be. Litho braking, rego braking, Luna braking, or something else. Anyhow, they impact cratered most likely. And that sucks. As an engineer, it always sucks to see your stuff not succeed, right? Regardless of country or anything else, it just sucks. I had a point. Oh, but they will likely try again, right? Sometime in what I guess the math comes out to 2073. They'll have another. Too soon. Sorry, too soon. But no, they'll probably try again. It'll be exciting to see them do their thing, and whoever else is going to the moon. I think that's going to be pretty awesome. It was James. It was a slight ouchie. That's the technical term.
All right. And it's the history of recent lunar exploration is pretty fascinating too. Just how wide a range of players are jumping into the mix. You've got South Korea right now with their own orbiter. You've got India, who's really made it a priority. You have China, who's making it a priority as well. We have Russia jumping back into the mix. You have commercial entities as well that are coming in and saying, we'll fly your payloads to the moon if you give us X amount of dollars.
Well, what is it so hard about the moon, by the way? Because you mentioned ISRO, India is going back to the moon or trying again, and that's because their last attempts have not been successful either, right? Chandrayaan 3, Chandrayaan 2 also did not succeed. So, and here we have Luna 25 not succeeding. Why is this so hot? Like, okay, Mars makes sense, right? Because you've got some atmosphere in Mars, and you got to deal with like the perfect amount of the wrong atmosphere, if that makes any like it's just enough to be a problem, but not enough where you can actually like use it to your advantage, sort of thing.
Yep.
So, like, it's like Mars makes sense, but the moon is in our backyard, right? If we expect to send humans to Mars, we got to be able to land just little robots on the moon, wouldn't you think? Like, why is this so hard? Jared? Ryan? I open it to the group.
I was going to throw it to Ryan. Ryan, give it a go.
It's just, you saw how long it took SpaceX to land a booster on Earth. And they don't even go that high, relatively, right?
Yes, indeed.
My next question is, why is it so hard to keep Ryan's internet connection stable in the middle of the show? This is...
Hey, we're sitting in a tropical storm, and we seem to be doing pretty okay.
We are. We're both in a tropical... So. Oh my God. I opened my door and this wave of humidity hit me. And like, I had just come back from Texas and I feel guilty because I feel like I brought the humidity back with me from Texas. Because there's been no break whatsoever, right? Like, I'm in Starbase, I'm doing my thing. You walk outside and it's just awful. And then I walk back in and it's terrible. I believe a wild Ryan has reappeared. If you want to, we'll set the timer. You have 120 seconds. Go.
Landing difficult. I'll keep that answer short. In between the cut-offs. Landing difficult.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan. Dada, did you want, like, why do you... I guess where I feel like this is...
Maybe it's only countries... Maybe it's only countries that don't use the metric system that can do it.
Oh, please. Boo. Boo. This is why we don't give you a camera. Boo. Everyone is saying boo. Boo. All right. All right. I guess
I withdraw now to my hole.
I think where I find this to be incongruent and where I just don't understand it is we sent humans there in the late 60s, early 70s, right? That's 50 years ago at this point. Like, humans, not robots, humans. I would argue it is harder to land a human on the moon than it is a little robot. Why? Goodbye. I told you we had 120 seconds. I'm curious to know if that really was 120 seconds. Anyhow,
humans are great at making decisions, right? For better.
Is that really what it is? Is the last minute decisions?
We make last minute decisions really, really well. I mean, Apollo 11, Neil Armstrong heading for a crater, and then eventually heading for an area with boulders the size of cars, and then we're going to tip the lunar module forward a little bit just to get out of the way of that. Like, that doesn't appear to be what's happened in a lot of these cases where the landers have been lithobraking. A lot of them, it seems the software basically reaches a point and says, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to do anything. Shut it down. Shut it all down. Okay, I'm fine. I'm good. Okay, 1 kilometer, half a kilometer, quarter kilometer. Why is it coming up so, it's just like, it's almost, it's.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, it's really difficult to make software that works where the software has to rely on itself. So, I mean, if everybody could do it, everybody would have done it, right?
So is that a fact, a matter of like the software not being complex enough to deal with all of the uncertainties and all of the variables that a human in presence would, and they don't have the ability to pivot to bad effects from their actions?
Yes, actually, as Jason is saying in the chat room, which was one of the more recent litho-breaking events on the moon, which is the Hakuto R lander, which said it also failed due to unaccounted for situations in the navigation software, and it would have essentially been able to do it manually. So yeah, it's an overwhelming, essentially an overwhelming of the software that ends up happening. And then the software can't account for the fact that it's receiving so much data, or the data that it's receiving doesn't make sense for where it thinks it's supposed to be during the landing process, as opposed to where it actually is during the landing process. If I was a human and I could look out the window, I would know that, okay, this is not syncing up correctly. I'm going manual. So,
because you know where you isn't.
Yes, exactly. The Jared knows where it is because it knows exactly where it isn't. So essentially,
Well, that is an interesting point, that maybe it is easier to land humans simply because we're bringing our intelligence with us. And while, yeah, it's harder to keep the human alive, as long as you can get the intelligence there, it's going to do everything it can to keep itself alive, as opposed to the software where it kind of doesn't care. To your point, it's like, all right, well, I wasn't programmed for this. I don't know what to do. Goodbye, Ryan. So yeah, so maybe that's just another, you know, another reason for us to really push for human exploration of the cosmos. Like one could make an argument like AI is coming a long way, and like there will be a time, but clearly we're not there yet, right? So you know, you want to do really great exploration, bring a human, let the robots do the exploring and all that, but like let the human go and like get them there.
In very complex situations, it makes sense for humans to be there. In situations where you're going to have very difficult conditions, say like orbiting through radiation belts around Jupiter, or continuing out to areas like Uranus or Neptune, it still makes sense to use robots, just because we don't have it at the point yet where we can send meat happily to those kinds of places. It's really, Mars is about as far as we're even aiming for right now, and I think that's okay in terms of flying meat. So robots still make sense for beyond Mars, with things like
but not
that.
The moon. So, the moon is in our backyard, Jared.
Yes. Although, so the moon is, it is. But you know, you got to remember also that a lot of the groups that are doing this may be first, second, or third attempt to even be doing something like this. They're not like the United States or the Soviet Union, which was doing this back in the 1960s and was able to basically been able to consistently do this since. Really, the only people that the only country that's gained a tremendous amount of engineering data that has allowed them to do this over a very short period of time is China, with the Chang'e program and their multiple successful landings and sample return that they've had with the Chang'e program.
Although this did come from this was Russia, right? So like you're right, and Chinese landed autonomously. And there's another interesting comment earlier back, about 3 minutes ago, from I think it's Popel, Popel. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm so sorry. And said they landed a probe on Venus but can't land on the moon. Right? Like it's like it's kind of almost like, you know how humanity sort of forgot how to make concrete for a while? It's sort of like that. Like we did. We forgot, like there was this lost knowledge. There's this that happens from time to time as we lose knowledge. It feels like maybe we lost a little bit of knowledge with how to go to celestial bodies.
You know, I'm just going to throw this out there, which I'm going to say that landing on Venus is relatively easy compared to something like the moon, because on Venus, you don't need retropropulsion. You just drop it in. That's it. There's even a point where you can just let go of your parachute and drift down to the surface, even if you're a big tank. Seriously.
Isn't the planet going to eat you alive, though?
Yeah. But
oh, hey, look, we got one. We got him back.
Yeah, but that's the operational environment. That's not the landing portion of it. So it's just like a couple months ago. Anybody can make a submarine. That doesn't mean it's going to actually end up working where you want it to work at, but anybody can make a submarine and get it down there.
Too soon, Jared. Too soon.
I was just going to say too soon, man.
Sorry, it's the only analogy I can think of right off the top of my head.
So then maybe I'm just oversimplifying this. Although that is emotionally how it feels a little bit, right? Like it feels like this should be easy, and the reality is none of this is easy, right? Like you are fighting everything, and a lot of it's counterintuitive, right? So none of it's easy, but it feels like it should be easy. It feels like we sent humans there 50 years ago. It feels like we should be a lot further along than we are. And maybe it's just I do not know how to pronounce that screen name. Irinine says lost motivation, I think. And maybe that like there was motivation in the Cold War, right? So I think we
was there motivation in the Cold War? Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, maybe not for the right reasons, but there was motivation.
Oh yeah, there's two extremely motivated countries ready to show my rocket's bigger than yours. My warhead, I can deliver my warhead, bigger warhead than your warhead, essentially, but doing it in a nice kind of way.
All right. I think
I like this comment from James.
You can't keep the data stream up. That one, yeah. Too soon, though. Too soon. All right.
Ouch.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Ryan, you've got a stable connection right now, so I'm going to pass the baton to you, let you get as much out as you can with your update, and then when it crashes, Jared and I will have a side conversation, and then we'll come back to you when you come back. How's that sound?
Okay. Boca Chica, orbital launch mount, nighttime, sploosh. Ready, static fire soon, maybe.
That's your update. Nighttime sploosh. Is that the name of the show at this point? Hang on, I'm going to take a note of that. Nighttime sploosh. I literally wrote it down.
Jinx it, but I've moved my phone over there to the window, so fingers crossed the line of sight should be a little bit better. So I'll try going into a little bit more detail, but yeah, I'm going to cut off in 5 seconds. So the water deluge system was tested again. This time at night, they added a new tank to the water tank farm. And it looked good, at least from what we could see. So fingers crossed the booster will roll back shortly. They'll do another static fire test to make sure all of the Raptors and all of the ground support all works properly, and it'll work from there. So yeah, fingers crossed it all looks good. Still steady progress towards the launch. End of August is starting to look a bit overly optimistic to me, maybe, but I mean, first half of September definitely seems like a ballpark that can be met from where we currently are. I mean, it kind of sounds kind of crazy to say considering the state that the pad was in April, but I think good progress has certainly been made.
Yeah, and I'm definitely happy with what I'm seeing. I know usually I'm viewed as sort of like this eternal pessimist on SpaceX, the things that they do. Sorry, looking at things from an engineering perspective, I suppose that I'll do that to you. But I don't know what it is about this this specific campaign with this booster and this spaceship coming up. It just seems to be flowing. I don't want to necessarily say flowing easier, but it just seems to be like the competency is there, and not that it wasn't there for Booster 4 and Booster 4 and Starship 20. It just, I don't know what it is. This just seems way different than that is, and again, I don't want to say it's because they hadn't done it before with Booster 4 and Ship 20, but there's just feels different. Like it feels like this is methodical instead of the get it off the pad attitude, which I know was like a really big motivator, and like that was the point of a lot of it. It just feels like the fact that there's all these different the death by 1,000 cuts is trying to be prevented as opposed to hey, hashtag full send, let's go. This feels a lot different, feels a lot better, and I still feel like the October date is going to be where it's at, but I'm still going to be sticking with my prediction that they're going to make it all the way to entry interface, and then anything after that, it's going to be bonus. So, yeah. So I'm very happy, very excited, very, very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's excuse me. There's also been essentially launches going with SpaceX as well. Like the pace continues. Oh, sorry, Jamie. Hi, Jamie. Bye, Jamie. Hi, Mom. Bye, Mom. that they're still keeping up the pace with SpaceX launches, but I don't think that pace is going to be approaching the holy grail of 100 in a calendar year, right?
Yeah, I think the first part of the year they're on a real good cadence to try and hit 100, unless they really ramp stuff up in the last part of the year. I still feel like we could be. I mean, 80, 90 is still a crazy number to think about, but I feel like 100 is just like yeah, if they're reached this year. But I mean, if we've seen the
Yep. If we if we see that pace, that's kind of how it's gonna go.
I went back to eating a muffin because I thought you guys had it, and then I had to run over and hit my camera really quick so that I could be on the air. So forgive me for chewing.
It's okay. You're good. I was actually going to go to the question. So Ryan, thank you for that. I was going to go to the question. I just lost. Yeah, there it is. So James Atkinson asking myself and Ryan, because Jamie, you're not allowed to answer this question here, which is how will that hot separation go? Ryan, what do you think? Let's get you while you're still here.
I think it will go successfully because it's kind of their only option now. the 360 flip clearly didn't work. Yeah, after hot staging, I feel like there's kind of apart from a pusher system like there is with Falcon, I feel like they're kind of running out of options. So it needs to work.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I feel like the interstage that I'm seeing is particularly well suited for that. I'm just wondering if the top domes are going to be able to handle some Raptors turning on them that close. So I feel like that's the biggest question mark, honestly, of this upcoming flight is that hot step going to work correctly? And yes,
Yeah.
it's definitely going to work than do a kickflip separation that they've been planning on doing. I'm still very skeptical though about the 10% increase to payload, simply because I've seen people do the math and it's usually not a 10% increase. It's usually a 2 to 5% increase, which is good.
Yeah.
But it ain't 10%. It ain't an order of magnitude, with that there. So, but we'll have to. But I mean, I suppose, with 150 tons of payload, any performance increase is a big amount that you get to work with.
Yeah.
So relatively speaking, I know for most of us, we look at it and we go, extra, I don't know, 50, 100 kilograms. Woo. But in this case, I suppose 1% is a ton and a half. So you know what? Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. So
they could start. They could start a fewer number of engines or their engines at a partial throttle just to be able to give enough gravity to feed the engines while the booster falls away, and then increase thrust to whatever their maximum thrust is to continue their ascent. So there are ways to mitigate destruction of the booster.
Yep.
From what I've seen, at least the shape of like the shielding dome and the interstage and stuff, the first kick from the ship to get away will most likely, this is a theory, I think it'll be the Raptor vacuums which are around the edge. So maybe like a low throttle setting just to get it away. Then you can ignite the sea level center 3 engines, and then that can do the rest of the burn up into orbit. At least that's really, in my opinion, would make the most sense in not trying to damage the booster.
That's a really interesting point, which is that which engines are going to be lit. So because you're going to be at altitude with this. So do you really want to actually have the sea level optimized Raptors up and running? Because that to me seems more like
you need them up and running because the vacuums don't gimbal, so you need the sea levels for gimbaling to steer. So the sea levels will be there just for thrust vector control, but the vacuums, and also it gives you a bit more of a shunt up into orbit because you have 6 engines instead of 3.
Cool. All right. Well, that definitely makes a lot more sense to me than just running sea level for the sake of having that there. So excellent. All right. Cool. Well, thank you, Ryan. I was today years old when I found that out. So, so yeah. and that's at least for me. That's all I got to say about Starship and SpaceX and Falcon 9 and all the fun stuff with them. So.
Well, then on that note, Jared, why don't we keep it going with you and go over to your fun thing that inspired you this... Oh, I have to actually sit up again. Inspired you. I'm sitting back here just listening to you. I'm like, listening to you guys talk. I'm eating a muffin, which is now gone. Thank you. But Jared, what inspired you this week?
Oh, well, there was a really cool thing that happened in astronomy this week, which is the continuation of a certain mission that's really far out, and it's not from the Voyager program. It's actually New Horizons. In New Horizons, in case you don't remember, launched from Earth in 2006. Then it did its flyby of Pluto in 2015, so the first spacecraft to ever visit Pluto. And what it is now doing way far out there is that it is actually using its camera to look at the sky and figure out just how bright the sky actually is. So, which I know sounds like really bizarre to think about that, right? Like, how bright actually is the sky? So,
I guess, how are we defining brightness? Like, this doesn't make sense to me.
My answer is dark.
It is dark. Oh, trust me, it is dark. But the thing is, what it's essentially doing, now that it's really far away, it is no longer impeded by things like dust scattered throughout the solar system. So it could take really precise measurements of just how dark space actually is. And when you do something like that, you can actually end up figuring out a whole host of other things. You can look at the expected light. How bright should light be from galaxies that are very, very distant, just by looking at how not bright the universe is from a vantage point where there's nothing there to inhibit your ability to measure that. So basically, New Horizons is so far away, it can now actually figure out how dark is. And in doing so, that informs our telescopes back here inside of the solar system, just how bright objects really are appearing in them. And then from that, we are able to figure out even more precisely just how far away objects are, just by looking at them through our telescopes. So yeah, that was a really cool thing that they're doing right now with New Horizons. And that just blows me away that we're doing that billions of miles away from the Earth, and that this little itty bitty rinky dink probe the size of a grand, well, it's not rinky dink, it's a good probe. Sorry, Dr. Stern, I didn't mean to say that. This absolutely fantastic, fabulous probe is doing a great job, and it's just continuing on. And I really hope that they just allow New Horizons to run until they can't talk to it anymore, simply because all of this work is bonus work, and it is really important stuff to astronomy that ends up getting applied to every possible discipline that you can think of involved in that. So it was a really, really cool result.
I'm super confused. So
okay, please.
First off, gone again. So
yes.
Expected. Help me understand. So isn't brightness is effectively a photon slamming into something and reflecting off of it. Is that not a fair assessment? Or brightness is a photon, right?
Yes.
So if you don't have a photon, would you not be infinitely black? Like, you would have infinite darkness. You would have no... If you're in an area that has no stellar dust, it has nothing for a photon to bounce off of, wouldn't that be infinitely dark?
So it wouldn't necessarily be infinitely dark, simply because in mathematics you can use infinite to express things, but in physics there's some rules that come into play, and infinity is a no-no.
But it's zero. Its brightness would be zero. So let's not say infinite. Let's say zero.
Not wholly zero, because we're not necessarily talking about the fact that, oh, we're receiving photons or other things like that. It's that we are seeing light directly. So in those areas where light is not coming from, there is no scattered light. There's no light that's been scattered off of gas and dust in those areas. So it's actually dark. Like, you are not getting photons from areas where photons are not coming from. So that's what's happening with New Horizons right now. It is so far away that its skies, if you will, are clear. It doesn't have the dust that we have to deal with in the solar system here, that's just scattered about, because that's the leftovers of our solar system's formation. So it's able to see just how little photons are actually coming from those dark areas. And then what we can do is we can do the exact same measurements with telescopes here around Earth. And in doing so, we can then essentially recalibrate everything in order to make sure we understand just like what is the distribution of photons here around the Earth, and what is the distribution of photons actually out there in the universe itself. So it's sort of like I'm taking an image I've got two planes. They're taking an image of the same spot. One of them's flying through a little bit of fog. The other one's not. So we're trying to figure out just how bright is the light that we're looking at in order to get a better understanding of the image that we're looking at. And we're using the image that the plane in clear skies is taking to figure out how to calibrate our camera in the plane that's in the fog. Because we understand the fog, we know the fog's around us, we just need to figure out what is it like when there isn't fog around us. And that's New Horizons is the plane that's not in fog right now, if you will. So
New Horizons is in a place that really does have no scattered light. So it is basically zero dark. Like darkness is zero.
It's about
as close to zero as you can get.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So then, because of that, no scattered light, we come back to Earth where it isn't zero. There is a ton of scattered light. We look at the delta between the two, and then we understand how much light's being scattered.
Bingo. Okay. Exactly. Yeah, we look at that difference, and then
took me a minute, but I got there.
It's just I can't think of what the camera processing term is for it, but it's basically subtracting the noise from what we're looking at and making the image clearer. But in terms of allowing us to determine distances, which is becoming an important thing, because we're seeing with telescope observations, like we're getting with JW, we're trying to resolve, one of the really big problems that has come up in the past year is what we call the Hubble tension, which is basically the difference in the expansion measurement between different space telescopes that we just can't account for yet. But we're working on it. We're trying to
wait. You're saying that different telescopes are coming in at different brightness levels and we don't understand why?
Well, different telescopes are giving us different redshifts and we don't understand why exactly.
Oh.
And what's cool is that the error bars very often are, most of the time when we take, data or something like from, say, a planet or something from different telescopes, the error bars will be like that. They're not really all that. But in this case, some of the Hubble tension, some of the error bars in Hubble tension, they're like that. And it's like, like there's like 4 whole orders of magnitude between these error bars. Why is that happening? So we're trying to figure things out right now and see what it'll be. And as Zapfan is asking, like I was just discussing right now. So will this resolve the Hubble constant measurements, which the discrepancy between the two, we call that the Hubble tension. Now that's the official title of it. Now I think it's such a funny sounding. It sounds like a chess move, almost. Yeah, it should help us in terms of calibrating. As to whether that calibration is like the silver bullet to make it actually figure it out, to make that solution stick, we're going to have to figure it out. But yeah, we got to figure that. We got to figure that out. So.
Yeah, but now we have data set, right? Like that's the whole point of this is now we've got some additional data. Maybe it will help us get to, like, data is always good, right? Sometimes it's not what you want. Sometimes it's not the data you wanted and makes you go back to the beginning and you're like, oh, that's not what I
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I saw Oppenheimer yesterday. There was a lot of that happening in the movie. We got fresh data. We got to go back and rethink this. So, and a lot of we don't know yet. So, So yeah, we're just continuing to do what science does, which is attempt to figure out the world around it as best we can using a method that's over 4 centuries old that seems to have worked for those 4 centuries so far.
How did you enjoy Oppenheimer?
I absolutely loved every single second of it. So, and not just the science parts of it too. It was there's a lot of historical stuff that I did not know, and I thought was very interesting. And it was a very intense 3 hours. So
I really loved the sound design at the yeah, exactly. You know exactly the moment I'm talking about at the moment of the test. I thought that was done really well / technically wrong.
Yes. Yeah. There were some things.
When you account for distances, then you start a stopwatch. You go, that ain't right. That's too far. It's too far the other way, guys.
I understood what they were going for with it to bring the tension up, which was extremely well done. But I think those of us who have been around very large explosions before, or at least very large conflagrations before, are aware of certain aspects of that. So, yeah, I do want to say I did appreciate how they showed Oppenheimer often visualizing what he was thinking about. And, that's just something that a lot of us engineers do, is that we just visualize, and it kind of comes different to everybody. But I thought that the way that they showed Oppenheimer visualizing quantum mechanics was like unbelievable, because that's kind of the way I would think about it. So, and like you think about the textbooks and everything, and it was just really cool. It's not often you get to see science on the big screen being as well investigated and poked and prodded as it was, and that was just really nice.
I do half my work with my eyes closed.
Duddy, you don't work while driving, do you? No. Okay, that's good.
I do some of my work in the dark. So,
actually, you're not wrong, Jared. I think I do the same thing. I don't necessarily close my eyes, but I go into another place. I'm not sure how else to describe it. Where I'm like, you could, unless you say my name directly, I'm not there.
Jamie's got a working face, and when you've got your working face on, the world does not exist, and Jamie is working.
Yeah. Are you saying you can tell when I'm in my little place?
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
People are sometimes get insulted because my eyes are not closed, and I can do fundamental human things. So I can breathe, I can walk, I can not run into objects. That is about all I can do, though. And so I'll be in the hallways of Company X, and I'll be in my place, just like I'm working on something really complicated, right? Or I'm just like trying to actually, it's not even necessarily working on things that are complicated. It's going through, and I think every engineer will know exactly what I'm about to say. I'm going over the scenario and trying to think of, what do I not yet know? What did I not yet think about? What scenario am I not yet considering? Just over and over in my brain, like every single different angle of attack that I can think of. But the whole world doesn't exist to me, right? So people will call my name. I will not hear it. And I will walk right past. I could look right at them, not perceive that they are there, and walk right past them. And then people will go to Carrie Ann and be like, why is Jamie pissed off at me? And she's like, oh, no, it's not you. Anyhow.
That's very, so you've seen Oppenheimer. That's very Einstein of you. So.
Is it? No. My cats are attacking something.
Oh, okay. Right. That's what that noise was.
Yep. Oh, all right. I think we're running to a close, unless there's any final topics that any one of you guys wanted to bring up, or anything in the chat room.
Yeah, let's
exactly. All right. Yeah. Fantastic. On that note, I'd like to bring this nighttime sploosh to a close.
Nighttime sploosh.
Thank you for that, Ryan. I thank everyone so much for watching this week. Our members will be able to continue this conversation in a moment as we move over to our membership channels. We struggle each and every week, and this week has been no different. So I expect that we will right on cue. So,
Poor
man,
Ryan.
poor Ryan.
I feel so
I've
bad,
also
Ryan.
realized we could talk about this a little bit in the post show, but I also realized that we need to switch the doubles and the triples, right? Because if I'm in the middle, when we go to you and me, I should be on the right side. But when we go to me and Ryan, Ryan should be on the right side. And when we go to you and Ryan, you need to be on the left side. He needs to be that way, right? Because so when it goes to you and me, I should slide over. Yeah, I should slide that way. You should slide anyhow. We'll figure it out. Oh, did Noble Brown? Oh, hey, this is really cool. I think Noble Brown. What am I trying to say? Did a super chat. So thank you, Noble, for $4.99. It shows up differently in my EVMux chat room. I don't think I've ever seen a super chat in EVMux before. Actually, Dada, are you able to bring it up on screen? I'm just curious to see what happens. I want to see if that chat. We'll see. I don't have the superpower to bring it up on screen, and he might be in the middle of trying to figure out how to get the slates up. Okay, I'll just keep talking. Anyhow, oh no, he was working on that, but that's not what I'm talking about. But that's okay, that's fine. All right, yeah, that wasn't what I was going for.
I don't see this super chat readily available.
Really? It's the blue one in the chat room.
I don't have a blue one in the chat room.
From Noble? Oh, that's interesting.
Live.
All right, I will.
On the air, we figure it out.
All right. Noble, thank you for the super chat, and we'll figure it out. On that note, I do want to thank all of our members so much for watching. There are different levels of membership that you can sign up for. Each individual membership, every single... Okay, so it does look the same. Yeah. Yeah, okay, interesting. It shows up as blue as in ours. All right, you watch this learn live on the air. How fun is that? But you see the amount. Look at that. You see the amount right there. That's pretty cool. Is that cool or is that terrible?
It sounds
unsure.
like a good documentary to watch. So go check it out.
All right. On that note, again, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all of our members for being members and to making everything happen. On that note, we're going to head over to our membership only room. Whoa, that was cool. Membership only room. Here you go. Ground support. These are the different levels of membership. There is a level below this, which is system support. So if you I think it's $1 a month. If you're able to contribute $1 per month, you will get access to our membership show. Everyone that is super chatting, become members. Don't super chat. I appreciate you, but membership. So then you can come to the member show afterwards, because we're gonna keep going, and I'll shoot a link. Well, if you go to if you become a member and you go to your YouTube room, you can youtube.com/TeamRO. You will see the membership link right in there. You'll be able to click on that and go straight into the post show. And if, for anyone who's crazy, so our membership levels start from $1 per month, and that last one, which is Tomorrow Super Plaid Plus Escape. I don't remember what it was. Neurostream has that one is the only one. That is $500 per month of contribution and everything in between. So whatever fits your lifestyle. We would just appreciate any support that you've got. On that note, thank you all so much for watching and for enjoying the liveness of the show. And Ryan going boop 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 boop. And well, we'll see you next week. Awkward freeze.
Taking a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess we'll just end the show whenever the internet says.
Oh, hey, you can still see. We'll go into After Dark right now. Not After Dark. You can still see a little bit of my old tattoo right there.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, right there.
Nice.
Maybe I can do it. I don't.
Push the big red button. Where is it?
Hang on, I'm working on it. I'll do it. I'll manually do it.
Who has a hammer?
I'm gonna hit the.
Dogs, help me.
Oh wait, can I do it from here? I can do it right here, I think. Boop.